Welcome everyone to the Worst Fans podcast. I'm here today with Rhett, Matt, and Buck. Say hi, guys.
So,
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about the Rise of Skywalker versus Last Jedi debate. Basically, which movie ruined Star Wars for us? So Matt and Rhett over there are on team Last Jedi sucks, and Buck down there is on team Rise of Skywalker sucks. I'm kind of on both teams. I kind of hate the entire sequel trilogy as a whole. So I'm kind of going to be a mediator in this little debate that they're going to have today. So most of the time, they're going to be the ones talking, giving their points, and I'm going to be giving them topics to talk about today. So let's get started.
First of all, they all suck. We all think they all suck.
Exactly.
We have our moments where we think
the sequel trilogy is just a complete mess, and we all hate sequel trilogy.
For Star Wars fans, I think the sequel trilogy is just a complete loss overall. I mean, no, it just doesn't belong. It just doesn't belong. That's my true opinion. It's just all three of them should just not exist. Chronologically, Star Wars ends with the Book of Boba Fett. So let's get started.
Wait, as in you count Book of Boba Fett, or you don't count?
I do count Book of Boba Fett. I mean, I didn't hate all of Book of Boba Fett. There were very enjoyable episodes, except for with the cyberpunk kids. So yeah, let's get started. Last Jedi. What do we give the movie as a whole? Like, what do we rate the movie individually? Aside from it being a Star Wars film, because we know it sucks as a Star Wars film, but what do we give it as a movie?
Yeah, I'll go first. So take it out of Star Wars, I'd give it a solid 7. I mean, there really wasn't a whole lot of issues that I had as a film in it of itself. You know, if it was Episode 2 in a new trilogy, I think it could work. You know, but you put it back in that context of Star Wars, it's that's where fundamentally I can't accept it.
What you read?
Right there with you. Now I've said a 7 because it's very enjoyable if it isn't a Star Wars movie, but it means too much. Star Wars means too much to do it happen in it.
Yeah, of course.
So,
all right, Buck, what about you?
No, I agree. I mean, in the end, it didn't connect with anything. It didn't go anywhere with the sequels or anything. So, as a movie by itself, I agree with Matt and Red. It's a solid 7. It just doesn't feel like it belongs in Star Wars.
Okay. All right. Now, what is our rating for the Skywalker?
Before we go there, I'd like to say The Last Jedi as a Star Wars movie is maybe a 1 out of 10. Just to say. And you can go ahead and go lower than me. I know you will. I just wanted to say, as a movie standalone, that it sounds high when we say that's a 7. We want to be clear, that does not mean we give it a 7. All right.
Yeah, good. Of course. Yeah, that's why I said it as not as a Star Wars film, individual.
Yeah.
So far, you guys gave it a 7. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now, what is our ratings for Rise of Skywalker as an? Matt, you can.
I'd probably give it a 5. And I feel like that's a little high. But there are a few elements that I liked about it. And again, because that movie is so Star Wars, it's hard to identify it as something other than Star Wars. But I think there was enough in there, cheesy as it was, I'd give it a 5.
Okay. What you read?
The same. I'm going to give it a 7, but it's for different reasons. I would look at The Last Jedi as a little more, I don't want to say artsy, but a little more quality on the filmmaking aspect.
I agree.
Whereas for a standalone story, still not a Star Wars story, I don't think there's much that happened other than a slow space chase. Even though it was in Star Wars a little strange, it felt like a corny Indiana Jones movie. Like there's still a group of people that are buddies, and it's an adventure, and there is like a little mysterious puzzle, and I think that was a better standalone story than what happened in Last Jedi. But the quality wasn't quite as good as Last Jedi to me, so they balance each other out, and it's still a 7 to me.
I mean, sorry to interrupt, but I felt like it was all over the place. It was quick transitions. I couldn't tell where the story was going. As a film, I think that's why I give it a little bit lower, which is weird because when it fits in the context of a Star Wars film, I give it a little bit higher score, just because it tries to, recuperate from where the Last Jedi put it.
Right. Okay. What about you, Buck?
as a as a movie, I'm gonna give it a 3, only because it just as just a standalone movie, like Matt said, it was all over the place. The pacing was terrible. The editing was horrible. It moved really fast, and there's just too many plots that didn't connect. It was a messy film. Now, as a Star Wars movie, I'll tell you what, as a Star Wars movie, I'll give it a 6 because yeah, as a Star Wars movie, it did feel like a Star Wars movie. It didn't do anything. It just felt like the same repeated stuff. It didn't
Yep.
add anything new to it, but it did have more of that Star Wars feeling. But as a movie, it's like a 3. Yeah. I,
A lot of surprising scores.
yeah.
Um,
How about you?
well, as an individual movie, I give The Last Jedi probably a 6. Um, just because I feel like there's a lot of empty space in, and I feel like there's a more important plot points they could have focused on. Instead, they focused on it felt more like a show. To be honest, I feel like episodes of a show. If you split the movie into like 3 parts, if they would all
I
feel
felt
like
that
different episodes.
watching recently.
And Rise of Skywalker, I again as an individual movie probably a 5, but as a Star Wars film, I
Interesting.
probably like a
I
6 as well.
expected the opposite of that. Actually, that's funny.
But that's
For both
just
of you.
me. Okay, so now let's get into the nitty gritty of it. Why it sucks for Star Wars. Why these movies affected Star Wars fans so bad.
Yeah.
We can start with character development. So let's go with probably the main character of the sequels. Let's start with Rey. What is our biggest problem with Rey in both respective films? So it's there's a lot. There's so many. It's probably an unending list. But like let's start with The Last Jedi. What was probably our biggest problem with her in The Last Jedi? Anyone can start.
I'll start off. And this is no, I mean, this isn't a jab at Daisy Ridley because I actually think she did a good job of what she was given. I mean, as
Mhm.
an actress, she's there's nothing wrong with her. She's fine. But it was a clear indication throughout the whole trilogy, and I guess in the Last Jedi, that they didn't know what to do with her character. They just didn't. In the Last Jedi, I think they were going with the established idea that she had no connection to nobody. She was just a normal person who had force abilities, and the force was strong with her. And the way the movie ended, I thought that's where they were gonna go. I mean, it was in the back of my head, yeah, possibly in the third one they could reveal that she was a Kenobi, or a clone of Palpatine. But that was a lot of the frustration, I think, in the Last Jedi, is that they still weren't 100% sure who she was, and we're going to the third film, still not really that with that clarity of like, okay, so is she nobody really, or which I honestly, the whole way the trilogy ended with Rise of Skywalker, I thought she should have just stayed a nobody if that was the case. But that yeah, that was the main issue, really. I just didn't know what to do with the character. So
Okay. What about Matt, Rhett? What about you?
I mean, I think this is my issue for The Last Jedi as a whole. Walking away from The Force Awakens, one of the big question was, who is Rey? Right? And I felt a little frustrated with the direction that Ryan Johnson took The Last Jedi, is because it was intentional not to say who she was, right? And so we're here 8 episodes in, and we're trying to conclude a saga, and we still have no idea who this new character is. So I think that's where my main issue is that there was no development from 7 to 8, and that put the weight on 9.
Mm-hmm. At first I was gonna say I don't really think I had a problem with her in 8, and then as you guys started speaking, I was like, oh wait, I do have issues. I forgot. Um, both of what you said, like the mystery of who is she. I think when we ended with Force Awakens, a lot of the debate, that was one of the big questions, and it was okay at that point to not know who she was. But usually they'll leave you like enough breadcrumbs to make you think in one direction. And I remember thinking they didn't give us enough of anything. It really is on the table for she could be anything. And at that point, I actually felt like she could be a nobody. And then the second thing tying into that is why now I thought she couldn't be a nobody. She had to be somebody. Was something that happened in the Last Jedi that was where I couldn't defend this one argument. At the end of The Force Awakens, she took on Kylo Ren and she won.
Right.
A lot of people were frustrated with that. And I defended that at the time, saying, no, think about it. He got injured by Chewie's bowcaster.
So did
And it
I.
wasn't like just a standard laser blast. They show in that same movie stormtroopers getting hit with that and they go fly against the wall. So he absorbed that. And I'm sure the Force helped him, hit that blow a little less. But that was much more than just a shot. That was some kind
Yeah.
of impactful thing. He took that and then was able to fight a little bit. That's how Finn was able to get a shot in or a defensive shot. I can't remember how it worked. So there was that. He did just kill his father. Whether his feelings on that issue at that time were clear or not, that's probably enough to distract you a little bit. In some respects, I think those two things is why I originally defended. That's how she was able to best him there, and it's he still put up a fight. Then in the Last Jedi, there's that scene which we hadn't even gotten to yet. That we tried rewatching it recently, where they're fighting for the lightsaber using the Force, and they're pulling the lightsaber, Ren and Rey, and it's right there in the middle. That's where he was healed up. They just he took down Snoke. They both took down the Red Guards. And we were only talking how many days since The Force Awakens? Daisy or Rey didn't have a whole lot of training between that period, but she was at that point for sure with no excuse his equal. They were able to take that lightsaber and pull it apart. It wasn't like he pretty much had it and then she almost got it. She was just as strong as him. And for me, that meant she has to be more than nobody because now I can't use the excuse that he was injured. She has to have something besides being a nobody. And that's where I dropped my argument. I wanted her to be a nobody at first. I thought that was fine. Until then. Now I'm like, well, you got to give me a reason. I have to have some tangible reason why she can be, at this point, just as tough as him, who's got the Skywalker blood, and he's been doing it for a long time. He's been training since he was a kid. So,
Yeah, I think one of my biggest issues overall, and why I dislike the Disney trilogy, is because you have this placement of a character who fits within the Skywalker story and has now become the hero of a different bloodline, but she claims, the Skywalker name at the end of Episode 9. I think that was a low blow. That's like making a trilogy about, I don't know, Iron Man, and then Superman comes in and is the hero, right? It's so
Yeah.
dumb. It's just, it didn't fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was intentional, DC and Marvel. I'm trying to mix that up. She didn't fit.
She didn't fit.
She did. Yeah.
And I guess that would be one of your biggest problems with her in Rise of Skywalker. I guess that would because we were saying Last Jedi, so now Rise of Skywalker, one of her biggest problems is she just took the Skywalker name from us, from fan section. She doesn't deserve that name. And
again, like you guys said too, Daisy Ridley was perfect. It was just how Disney developed that character, or didn't.
She played that part exactly how she was supposed to. She did her job. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. That was the biggest issue with Rise of Skywalker too. Is just the fact that they made her a Palpatine, and I just wasn't crazy with the idea. So it was basically she's Palpatine's granddaughter from a clone, right? From his, yeah.
So for just to throw this out there, I know the book means one thing, but in the movie context, all I've gotten is that she's just the granddaughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
right. So it's his granddaughter. So the whole thing that pissed me off about that, besides the fact that she takes the Skywalker name, is that throughout the movie, Leia is trying to instill in her that don't be ashamed of who you are, don't be ashamed where you come from, this and that. And her changing her name from Palpatine to Skywalker kind of just well, that's not exactly what they were trying to tell you should do.
Wait, cut for a second. Cut for a second.
What?
Rose, we're talking about.
Look good on my side.
Yeah, I think so. Man.
We can pour our beers, fill up our mega pints.
Mega pints.
Mega pints.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the other day my phone was like, wait, it's in Fairfax County? Why the hell is it in Fairfax County? That's where I live.
Crazy.
It's down the road.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Fairfax County, Virginia. That's where I live.
Okay.
Like, why? Why is it here?
I heard Johnny Depp's gonna. I think the next. I think Monday. They're not doing anything tomorrow, but I hear he's gonna deliver waffles to his fans outside the court. Man,
Really?
breakfast. Yeah.
Oh, might have to make a trip up
I
there.
know. I really want to go. Delivering waffles to my fans Monday. If you're not there Monday, you won't get a waffle.
All right.
You gotta do a little smirk in between.
Buck, start up
Yes.
again when you were talking about what you didn't like about Ray. And
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that was my main issue with her in the Rise of Skywalker as well. Besides the fact that she took the Skywalker name throughout the movie, Leia was telling her that she shouldn't be ashamed of who she is, where she came from. And once she found out she was a Palpatine, it kind of went out the window. And she said her name was Skywalker. It kind of just, it didn't make sense. It was
Yeah.
dumb and just,
Yep.
yeah.
It would have been
Yeah.
stronger if she had said Ray
Yeah.
Palpatine.
And
Because it's
it's
like she
funny.
changed this name,
yeah,
yeah.
she
Right,
she
and
changed the name.
I read somewhere today actually because now there's some news articles coming out. I guess maybe because Star Wars Celebration is going to be next week, and Kathleen Kennedy speaking out about the trilogy and decisions that were made. And they said that they scrapped the whole idea of her being a Kenobi because it was spit in the face of George Lucas and what he created as with the mythology of Jedi. I'm
The
like,
whole
"What?"
trilogy was a spit in the face of
Right? I'm
Luke.
like, what do you think that whole sequel trilogy was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They literally
I'm not
teased. They literally teased a romantic interest with Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars. I think
right.
I feel like it would have been perfect, but
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't.
I don't
Obi-Wan Kenobi literally said he almost left the Jedi Order for.
Oh, I'm sorry, not that. I don't know
Yeah.
if her being a Kenobi meant anything would work for me.
Again, you would have to be good at storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If this whole thing
Um,
was written by Dave Filoni, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
her character was just a mess, and
Yep.
they just didn't know what to do with her. And that was a big part of this sequel trilogy. The main character
Yeah.
had um, no depth, no story really. It was
It was all
nothing.
over the place.
Yeah, all over the place.
Well, I guess to say my thoughts on Rey and Rise of Skywalker, this is probably where I'm a little different, and I do think that her just dropping the Skywalker thing doesn't make sense. Yeah, it didn't do anything for me, but I finally I think I know what she meant by it. Um, if I understand it correctly, and I may be wrong, she absorbed correct all of the Jedi. They said, "I am now all of the Jedi." Right? Everything that Luke had came to her. Is this right? Didn't that happen somehow?
I wouldn't use the word absorb. I feel like I
Yeah,
would use more like all the Jedi that are in the afterlife kind of helped her, like gave her power, or like they
I
were
think
Tap
there
into that
behind her.
energy.
Yeah, like they gave her energy. I wouldn't say like she absorbed. Like that's a weird word to
You're
use.
right.
You know
You're
what I
right.
mean?
All right. I know. I remember where I thought of this now. It was when the healing from Ben.
Yeah.
He gave his life. So basically, she took the essence of. That's where I got it from. The essence of his Skywalker force,
Uh huh.
literally his force, midichlorians, I guess, came to her to bring her back. That's how I saw that. He. All right. Remember the healing? I know y'all kind of like
I
want
remember the
to mind it,
healing. Yeah.
but if you think about how that happens, they talked about it takes at one point they say it takes part of me to make that healing happen for you. So all of it killed him. It took everything he had to make her come back, right? So therefore, I feel like it was his entire force capability, which was the Skywalker force. She now owns that. It's in her. And that's why I think she said Skywalker, because I am that now. I am literally that force bloodline through them and then physically taken from one body to the other. And that's where I came up with, oh, that's why she said that. But it's like that is so hard to decipher
Yep.
Yeah.
that it doesn't work for audiences.
Yeah.
We're just like, why would she use the name at this point?
We have to build that in our mind to make it acceptable.
Right.
I feel like because it wasn't explained in the movie in that way.
But I truly think that's what it is. I mean, that healing, first, you have to accept that it even happens. And then if you do, you say, what you get, you're given what they tell you, which is in order for that to work, you've got to pull life from one to the other, which is how he died. And with that, she got a bonus in force powers, which was Skywalker bonus.
It still doesn't change her
Man,
makeup. DNA though.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
you know,
change
yeah.
her
This
blood. No,
Yeah,
don't
but
get me wrong.
it spits on the sacrifice of what Luke and Vader did. Well, Luke and Anakin did, especially in the Return of the Jedi. You know what I mean? It's like you compare that ending, right? Because at that time, that was the ending of the whole thing, right? That was,
yeah.
I mean, how do you go from that to this? I don't understand how the writers could actually look at both movies from Return of the Jedi to now and think, yeah, this ending is completely equal to that.
Or
Total
supposed to be
satisfaction.
better, really. Like it's
No,
supposed to
this is
be
closing out the
even
whole
better.
saga,
We just
right?
capped 9 movies now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I just
I don't know what they were
it baffles
thinking.
it baffles me. It
I'm
baffles
saying all I was getting at that point was that explains it. That is to me the explanation of why she uses that name now, which is a little silly. Her blood is Palpatine, but her Force essence is what she was born with plus bonus. She gets Skywalker Force
Skywalker
powers.
because of the healing that she received from
But
Ben.
technically, Palpatine won because Palpatine said if she kills him, he's gonna basically absorb everything that he is, right? So he kind of did win.
In a weird
Sort of.
way, yeah. Because I remember thinking too, you still killed
Yeah,
him.
you still
Yeah.
killed him, but what was different?
Just
That the
not
fact
in the
that
manner
every
in which
Jedi came and backed you up this time. I don't.
Right.
I guess that, and he was in, if it was the under the method he wanted to die, he was ready to do the same transfer he did once before, I suppose. Whereas here it was he was in this duress and couldn't perform that feat, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Because they didn't bother telling us.
No, they
I mean,
didn't.
They didn't
apparently
tell
that
us.
wasn't his plan from the beginning anyway, because he just absorbed Kylo and Rey's energy to begin with. He said, "Oh, I don't never needed you,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was like
So
bad writing.
that kind of that was me supposed to end the topic of the Rey and the Rise of Skywalker. We went from like Rey and Last Jedi. That was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
parts there. Let me make sure that was all I had to say about Rey in that movie. Okay, yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we wrapped up on Rey, basically.
Character development
Yeah,
compared to
Ray.
the original.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. So what is probably the worst thing about both movies when it comes to the continuation of this, like our actual Star Wars that we know? What was probably like the worst thing that they could probably do within the sequel trilogy as a whole? Not even this is including Force Awakens as well. So we can grab all three of these movies and say what was the worst thing they did probably as a transfer from 1 through 6. They just brought it over from 7 through 9 and said we're just gonna forget everything that happened in 1 through 6, and we just added this. So go ahead, Rhett. You want to go first?
Yeah, because I'll be quick and I'll let you go. This is silly.
Okay, that's
The
fine.
worst thing is that they called it episode 7, 8, and 9. Done. It could have just been a trilogy that took place another time. This should not have been 7, 8, and 9. Your turn. Or whoever. Yeah.
That's fair.
Go ahead, Bucky.
No, go ahead, Matt. I'm still thinking, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing that they could have done. I mean, I feel like they did it. 7 wasn't a problem. There was enough of a lead to into what could have been a good full 9 movie saga. But I felt like 8 ruined it. 8, injected chaos within the saga and disrupted everything enough to where now everything was going to be deemed a failure. And so you kind of have to draw that chalk in the line, or line in the sand, to where you can make Star Wars fit for you. For me, I feel like I have to make it end at 6, right? Because
It's a
8
shame.
ruined it all for 7 through 9. So I can't wholeheartedly accept the sequel trilogy.
Okay. What about you, Buck?
It's simple. I don't know how to put it in. Look, 7, 8, 9 ruined the Skywalker storyline. It just did. Episode 7 was the most innocent one because it was the starting point, and even though there was a big gap, a 30-year gap, I thought there would be enough explanation as the movies went on as to how everything fit. Like Rhett said, it shouldn't have been episode 7, 8, and 9 because there was really no. I mean, there was enough, in Return of the Jedi where it finished, where we got everything we need to know how Anakin and Luke tied everything up. There was no real explanation as to how the First Order even came about, how things happened with Kylo. Why did he turn so bad? Why was he so corrupted? You know? And going back with Ray, like what was her deal? What made her so damn special? Honestly, it was ridiculous. And the fact that it kind of holds that Skywalker lineage of what they accomplished, and it's added in the lore. It's just there. I can't take it seriously. I cut it off at Return of Jedi because
Yep.
it's
But yeah,
it
and
just
now I'm sorry, but I feel like they have to shoehorn and retcon everything with the the new things that are coming out, like the Mandalorian or
yeah.
the Book of Boba Fett, and they're or the books, the stuff that average fans aren't going to go out and read,
No, of course not.
so they're going to be
Right.
left out of what really happened, and
Right. See,
you
here's the
know
thing.
you should
That's what the sequel trilogy was made for just the average fans who really have no care about
exactly
the details that we care about.
yeah
You see that, and that's why Disney doesn't really care.
right
This isn't for us.
It was opening a new audience. Let's make a new
Yeah,
audience.
it wasn't for us. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
but I still hold the fact that the Last Jedi was not the main reason why it went down in flames. I'm still holding on to that. Just letting you know.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna hop in here and I'm gonna piggyback off of Rhett. I feel like one of the biggest mistakes was calling it 7, 8, and 9. Even though I probably have to say 2005 when Revenge of the Sith came out, and then afterwards I was always a huge Star Wars fan. Toys, the collectibles, just to talk about it. Then books, whatever. Then when they announced Episode 7, The Force Awakens came out, and I actually watched it and saw it. Probably one of my favorite times as a Star Wars fan was probably after Episode 7, because there was so much talk about theories. Oh my God,
Yeah,
Snoke is Darth
agreed.
Plagueis,
So good.
Rey's a
Yeah.
Kenobi. That was probably the best part of being a Star Wars fan, is just that, oh my God, Star Wars is back. We're here. I can't wait for the next movie. And then we just got shit in our face, basically.
Yeah,
It was
that's
just
how we became friends. Is because we started theorizing about what was going to happen in Episode 8.
Yeah, I mean, I was still in high school. I remember I went all around the halls of my school and I showed everyone the Force Awakens trailer. I'm like, I can't wait for this movie. This is gonna be awesome. And it's just,
Yeah.
Force Awakens. You're right, Buck. It was the most innocent one, absolutely, because it really left. It was a perfect setup for a
Yeah.
perfect storyline
Yeah.
that they could have really
Yeah.
carefully made an excellent story, but just
Right.
decided to
Ryan
blow
Johnson
everyone.
had the alley oop. It was right there.
Yep.
And instead, on his own team, he was like, "Bam!"
Well, if JJ would just committed to the story he started, none of this would have happened.
No, he couldn't have. Ryan messed it up. Ryan messed it up.
No, I disagree.
Here's my let's take Star Wars away. When that is a good one. When you get in an argument with your significant other, but it's like this one thing starts it, and you're like, but then like it gets you annoyed enough, you say something not nice either, and then you're like, hey, I'm not as much to blame for this up here if you hadn't said this to begin with. So Rise of Skywalker's the hey, I'm still dealing with this first piece of shit over here. So sorry.
You know what? You can see it that way, but honestly, I mean, The Last Jedi with me and Rhett, I mean, that movie almost killed our connection to Star Wars because
Terrible.
we weren't even talking for a while. I remember at some point,
I remember.
and
that.
when Rise of Skywalker came out, it actually brought us back together because we kind of like said, you know what, it's all shit,
It
man.
all
Oh, shit.
sucks.
What are we
You're
fighting
good.
about, man? This is bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. And it was
Yeah.
all good. So see, in a sense, Rise of Skywalker was to me so bad that it brought us all together again. That you should look at it that way.
But if The Last Jedi could break us apart, I mean, come on. That's
We got a winner.
it's sold. But yeah, that's true. We met like this in 2015. That's when we moved to the same place.
Yeah.
Met each other at work, and I think we saw it on our own first, The Force Awakens. I mean, but then we were like, let's go to IMAX. Like, yes, we saw IMAX. The second time I saw it was with him in an IMAX. Force Awakens, because we loved it. We were just like, this is great.
Yeah.
It doesn't, we all knew immediately it was like, this is very derivative of A New Hope. But at the time, I was like, I remember saying, I've supported Kathleen for a while, actually. I was like, that's her genius. She's worked with Spielberg. She knows you got to do something familiar, paint it a little differently to do that, to get the new audience and the old to be one.
Yeah.
And it worked for a while. It's like, okay, we just have to have. There was an expectation to have certain things answered in the second one, or else you can't put it all in the last movie, or else it's going to turn into shit, which is what happened.
Right.
So I feel like there was many milestones that were missed in Episode 8 as the middle piece of that trilogy that should have happened. It didn't.
Yeah, I mean, The Force Awakens, it gave me everything I wanted to see in a Star Wars film, right? The action, the CGI, it was solid. But now looking back at it in hindsight and what it was, I don't really enjoy it as much. But at the time, it was a great film.
Cheers.
Yeah. The Force Awakens was the right move to make because at the time, 2015, remember, the prequels at that time were the most hated things in Star Wars. And everyone was talking about how this was going to be the return of Star Wars. And in a sense, it was because it went back to the original trilogy feel. And that's what I think everybody wanted to be reminded of at that time. So that's what needed to be done. And that's why The Force Awakens works for its time.
Swings and TIE fighters, man.
Right.
Yep.
But the most backlash I received at the time, I remember clearly, was the fact that it was basically
New Hope.
a New Hope, a new version of New Hope. That's what it was. And I think the creators and the writers kept hearing that. And they said, well, what do we need to do? The next one needs to be different. It needs to be something that no one's going to suspect, no one's going to see coming. And that's what they did. Was it a mistake? It kind of was because they went too far. And they didn't have a whole outline for the whole trilogy to do something like that. But that was the mindset, I think, behind The Last Jedi. That's why. I mean,
All right.
just saying.
I think he did a lot of surprises. That was the biggest different part.
Yeah.
But I do think it still is a lot like Empire Strikes Back.
It's very similar in its tone, where it felt very well. Okay, think about it. I mean, Empire Strikes Back felt very different from A New Hope. I mean, think about it. If you were watching New Hope for the first time,
you're right,
and you're going to Empire Strikes Back, you would have no idea that this is where it was going to go. Vader was going to be Luke's.
Where's the space battle?
And Han was going to be kidnapped, and all this kind of stuff happened. Where you're like, oh, whoa, I didn't think this was going to happen. What the hell, you know? Yeah. So in that sense, Last Jedi kind of felt that way, and I think that's what they were going for. It just
There's
didn't
a
work.
few of the similar beats, like the beginning's evacuation of their hidden rebel base, get them out of there. You know what? We got to go find the old ancient Jedi. He's going to teach us and make everything better. He's reluctant to train you. Yeah. You're wanting the training. I don't need your training. I'm going to go without you at this point. There was a lot of similar beats, and then you go face the guy. You weren't ready. But ends up that's where the spin was. Right, Snoke. Spoiler alert. Snoke. Snoke.
Yeah,
it's a problem for me. We haven't gotten to our real problems with each movie yet, but
yeah. No. Well, we can get down and dirty with it now. Real problems with each individual movie. I'm actually gonna do something different here. So since Buck is on Team Last Jedi and Rhett, you guys are on Team Rise of Skywalker, I'm actually gonna ask you guys. Well, yeah, I know you guys like the Rise of Skywalker more. He likes the Last Jedi more. So I'm actually gonna ask you guys what did you not like about the Last Jedi? Probably, or what you didn't like about it.
Well, I think I said it kind of before that it felt too much like a standalone movie. Mm-hmm. It didn't connect to anything, and because obviously the Rise of Skywalker didn't want to connect with it. It took okay. The handle of Luke was the biggest problem. I mean, I think that was mainly everyone's issue. Even I had an issue with it. I didn't hate it. I thought, okay, they will really have some explanation as to why he is the way he is. I mean, I can understand. It's been 30 years, right? As adults, we'll look back at ourselves and be like, yeah, we were kids, I don't think the same way anymore. I'm kind of a grouchy asshole, and he wanted to kill his nephew because he saw evil in his nephew and he saw the future in his mind. He was going to take over the galaxy. All right, he just wasn't himself. Yeah, I get it. It was out of character for him, right? And with Red, he's saying, if there was more explanation for that and we saw it, then maybe we could rationalize as to, okay, I can see Luke doing this, right? It didn't at that point. It didn't bother me because I thought we would definitely get that. And my biggest gripe with it is that so much. Okay, so what they did with Luke, I took it in. The more I saw it, I'm like, okay, I see where they're going. I mean, it was different in my mind. I wanted it a little differently, but okay, this is what they took. This is where we're going with the character. Okay, they didn't have to kill him. If he would have survived the Last Jedi, I think it would have been different. It's just the fact that he died at the end. I remember watching it, and after what he did, that whole oh crap, he wasn't there the whole time. And I'm like, oh shit, that was actually a pretty slick move. But then he died, and I'm like, damn it, why did they kill him? What's gonna happen in episode 9? But still, I still had hope. I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty sure if they do something so ballsy, I mean, they kill Snoke and kind of set up Kylo to be the big baddie now. There has to be some kind of other evil out there. Man, these guys, man, these writers, they know what the hell they're doing. I mean, shit. But no, they didn't. And but that was basically it. The whole Canto Bite scene. Honestly, I know everyone hates it. I don't really hate it all that much. I hate the reasoning why they went there. The whole setup and everything wasn't that bad. I thought Benicio del Toro's character, what was his name again?
TJ.
DJ.
DJ wasn't that bad of a character. I thought he was actually kind of interesting, and I wanted them to actually be included in the Rise of Skywalker, but of course, they just ignored his character altogether. Um, Finn's arc, I thought was. I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to teach him, something, obviously. But then we go to Rose's character, which I completely hated. Because me and cringe. I hate cringe, and she was completely cringe worthy.
Corniness, though, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't take it.
Yeah.
Nothing against the actress. I have nothing against her. I thought the whole character was just a waste of time. We didn't need her. So yeah, that was my main issue with the Rise of Skywalker. Otherwise than that, I thought it was a beautiful movie. Honestly, I mean, visually speaking, I thought it was actually it was that actually better than the Force Awakens and the Rise of Skywalker. The cinematography, the red palette that was in. I mean, it was visually.
Cool.
Yep.
I thought it was a
I
great
agree.
movie. Yeah. So
Can I ask you, because you brought up Snoke, that didn't. I get the surprise factor. We all were literally truly surprised he died.
yeah.
But when it didn't bother you that you're like the whole reason even Kylo, in the words they use in that movie, we just watched it, Kylo or Snoke got to him first. The meaning of or how and why he was there running the show, and then it's canceled. You don't get to know anything about him. That didn't bother you?
No, because I thought, okay, so what they're doing is they're setting up Kylo to be the ultimate evil. He's basically taking the step where he's going to be the big guy you're dealing with in the next movie. Now, this is before the whole theories of Raylo and all that crap was going to happen. But I thought he was going to be the ultimate. He was going to be Vader. He was basically taking Vader's place at that point. So that's how I saw it.
Yeah.
And you weren't there. I mean, I'm sure you were there, obviously. But in the theater, when I saw it the first time and that scene happened, and Kylo killed Snoke, and you had Rey and Kylo fight together. I mean, the theater pop when that happened was like,
that happened
oh
with mine too.
shit! Like, what the hell? It was a pretty cool moment. Of course, now it's shit because it didn't lead to anything. But yeah, at the time it was
My
great.
theater also applauded, but I had a similar problem with Red. I was probably the only person who didn't applaud because I had a huge
Yeah,
problem.
because I'm going. I'm not going to get my answer.
What was
I'm not
happening?
gonna
Like, you're like, wait, yeah.
It was because, honestly, you really have to go back to in The Force Awakens, we didn't get any explanation of who Snoke was or why the First Order even exists. So it's like we got to know how that happened. Why are we in this war? That means something to me. It's like if it's what turned Kylo, and now that reasoning is gone. I mean, they've answered it since then, I guess. But at that time, it's like the fear of never knowing who this guy is and having to wait till the last movie to even understand how he came to be really frustrated me for years, out until between the movies. And so a bit of the peace of mind I got out of Rise of Skywalker was just that at least they gave me something that would help me better appreciate The Last Jedi, because now I don't have to worry about what happened. I don't want to get too off topic, but what has helped The Last Jedi a lot is the shows. In a similar manner that I wasn't always the biggest prequel fan either. I liked it fine, but I had my issues. And the Clone Wars and Rebels helped me understand a lot more that were questions that I had.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like it doesn't save the movies. As standalone movies, they're not saved, but it helps me understand the story a little better, especially if Mandalorian ends up tying into. I know some people are like, I don't want it to touch the sequels, but I really think it'll help support some of the story that should have been explained in the movie. They're
Yeah.
helping it by explaining those things outside of it,
Yeah.
like how they created Snoke.
Yeah.
We just talked about it. If
Yeah.
Snoke had meaning, we all said it. If he was Plagueis, that would have been genius.
That's
It
would've-
would have been.
I don't understand why they didn't go that route. I mean, they
He-
set
they
that
were-
up in episode 3 perfectly.
It
They
was right
did.
there.
It was there.
The music was the
was-
same in everything. When he was talking to
Yeah.
Anakin in that orchestra, the music that he was explaining the tragedy of Darth Plagueis, and we see Snoke's throne room scene. It's the same exact music. Listen back to it.
Yeah.
It's almost identical. And
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I was gonna ask you
I-
guys now, like, what do you guys not like about Last Jedi?
Okay.
And this is gonna be a little lengthy, I know, since you guys have a lot of reasons.
I've already started, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So for me, all right, I'll just pick on Canto Bite, right? And so there was, I think Ryan Johnson failed to realize where we were at in the story of the Skywalker saga. We're way late in the game, right? There's not a whole lot of flexibility. We got to wrap this up, right? We're about to conclude it in episode 9, and you're not telling us anything,
Yeah.
right? You're trying to. What does this all mean? What is the significance of the Skywalkers? What is the significance of Anakin and the Chosen One? And here you're giving us a little tidbits, and you're going in a completely opposite direction, right? And so we wasted half an hour on Canto Bite, and where there was plenty of room to just inject maybe a backstory for Snoke or develop Finn and Rose, right? If you have all these new characters, well, let's explain a little bit about them or develop them a little bit further. So I think that's where a lot of my frustration comes from, is that there was intentional choices made that took Star Wars in a direction where we know could have been better.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Not
Yep.
enough answered.
and
Yeah.
anything else to add on to that? More dislikes about the Last Jedi?
I mean, you brought up enough about Luke. I don't think I have to go there. Snoke and the First Order and how they should have had better direction. And I think that you could feel it. He and I said it at the moment when Rey is seeing herself in the mirrors and the shadows is coming. It's like we're about to find out who her lineage is, and it's her. And we look at each other and it's like he did that on purpose. Like he knew how much we all wanted to see something there that explained something. Just like when Snoke dies, it was a cool shock, but there's that moment of I'm not going to get explanation. And I think just the same. He knew people wanted to know who he was. Is it going to be Plagueis? And it's like, no, it's not going to be Plagueis. I'm surprising you. You should appreciate that.
Yeah.
Seems like there's at least one more where it's like, haha, I knew what you wanted. I didn't give it to you. And I think that felt like he was more excited about surprising us than giving us something meaningful.
Right.
To me, and it's like the surprise happened. I'm Your Father was the one and only surprise any of us needed in the entire 9 movies. Don't try to surprise me. Tell me what's happening at this point.
Right.
That pissed me off. His direction and I felt very personal take on I can do what I want with Star Wars. This is my movie.
Yeah, it's like college football, right? I mean, you lose a game 9 games into the season, you're out of the playoffs. But if if the Last Jedi happened earlier, there's enough room to make up for it. So we weren't there.
Never heard that analogy. Pretty good.
I can't
Okay.
I can't wait for the podcast that talking about Ryan Johnson's next Star Wars.
Oh no, no, that's been delayed actually. So
It's been delayed, I know, but I just can't wait for the episode.
Hey, you know what? If he's away from the Skywalkers, it could be freaking awesome.
It could.
I
be.
agree.
You're absolutely
I
right.
agree. Yep.
I mean, he's a good director.
Knives Out.
People I think who
He's a
direct
good
Star
director.
Wars
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
like. I think if you're going to touch Star Wars, you need to leave your pride at the door. This is
Right.
about Star Wars and what it does for the saga. If anything, your little style can help, but you can't make major decisions at the writing table that are going to ruin stuff.
Well, I'll say this. I think that was his main issue, was the fact that he was too involved in making his own Star Wars movie that he didn't bother to really worry about what's going to connect to it afterwards.
Yep.
and that was the main problem. But
JJ did that
see, and
too.
that was the thing. JJ set up one movie, Ryan set up another because Kathleen Kennedy, the real problem in this whole thing, didn't bother to talk to these guys and be like, look, these stories have to match up or else we're gonna have
Well,
a big problem.
yeah. I mean, JJ did write, leads into 8 and 9, but Ryan discarded it. My
Did he?
understanding, right?
Did he really? I don't know if that's I don't know, that's hearsay, right? At this point. I don't know.
Objection, hearsay.
I don't know. And objection, because I don't know
Put your
about
mega
that.
pint away.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I mean, as far as that goes, I still don't think that because what Ryan did, what he did. Now we're in the second movie. We have no choice. We're in episode 8. The last one's coming up, right? The story didn't go like we thought it was going to go, but it did go somewhere. So it was Kathleen Kennedy's responsibility to kind of direct the story to have it make sense at least. Look, at this point, you're right. If you think at 8, the story of the sequel trilogy is ruined, it probably is. But at least make it finish. Have some kind of ending that's going to make some kind of sense so that we could actually go back and, like what they're trying to do now with the shows, try to have something to build off of. Because that's the problem with this trilogy. They didn't leave us anything to build off of. Unlike the prequels start out because the prequels, remember, everyone hated episode 1. Everyone hated episode 2. The only one that said, okay, well, it's episode 3, they stuck to landing. Episode 3 was actually pretty damn good. It finished on a high note. The sequel trilogy didn't finish on a high note. It ended horribly. So it was like you can't. It's like
It
it's so
started.
hard.
It started really strong and then just went down from there.
Started really strong, and it was like no, So it's like how do you fix something that the ending is so bad that
think
I just can't see myself where I could actually see where it could be fixed. I don't know.
I think they're not you can't fix it. Actually, random thought. Wouldn't it be cool if they did special editions like they did for the original trilogy and add scenes that help make it a little more
The Rise
meaningful?
of Skywalker originally was supposed to be a 4-hour cut.
Wow.
I want to see that. I want
Release
to
the
see that.
JJ cut.
I want to
Yeah.
the JJ cut. Yeah,
Yeah,
there was for rumors. It was on Twitter. The JJ cut. It exists.
Man,
Yeah.
Disney will never release it, but it's there, and it has to be a lot better than what the shit we got.
Yeah.
Especially now. Throw in hit clues in The Force Awakens that now coincide with what we're getting at the end in The Rise of Skywalker. Throw in clues about Snoke and The Last Jedi before he gets killed.
Right.
There's little things you could do to just help it out along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd have to start with the prequels, special edition for the prequels first, because they were first.
True.
Throw in stuff that makes it really feel more cohesive, the whole 9 of
Yeah.
them.
I mean, it did get
I
the
mean-
Clone Wars, so it's like
That's the thing. And the Clone
Yes,
Wars
those
plays
are
up so
shows.
nicely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what the sequel trilogy is getting the Disney Plus shows. That's what's helping them along, just like the Clone Wars helped along.
I don't think
the
it'll help Obi-Wan. Like the Obi-Wan show, I don't think it'll help out the sequel.
prequels. It could.
You think?
I
So?
don't know.
That's 10 years after, and Rebels was 15 years after 3.
So it's not about that so much. If they tie together, you could throw in
Some sort of
Sidious like is talking to Vader, and then he turns over to what he was doing, and it's like pulls up some of his the plan that's going on in the
cloning
background.
thing, okay,
Like
I
things
see.
that those sorts of things to be like, oh, that's nice
little
little
snippets
connection.
and details to try to help this.
Yeah.
Well,
Or goes back and looks at a vat of Snoke, and it's like, how's this batch looking? Something to like help show that it wasn't just which was what it actually was. Manufactured the year before it was released.
we've gone
Yeah.
off topic a little bit, but now I'm gonna talk about. You guys are gonna start it off with what you guys dislike the most about Rise of Skywalker.
Me? I think I mentioned a few earlier. I was trying to come up with my notes earlier. Now again, can't think of what I said. All right, so the fact that the Emperor is back to begin with, I know even in the teaser, people were excited. I was like, I think his story was done.
I was
It shouldn't
excited.
have
I was in
happened.
celebration when they announced it, and I thought, haha,
This
oh
is
yeah.
it. It's like, no, there was no indication he was coming back
Nope.
or that he was behind it all. I think it was because it kept it at a more tame within the galaxy, within the physical plane. And at this point, they needed to elevate it beyond kind of what you said earlier. What behind the meaning of the Force and the Chosen One. We needed to see why this all happened, why Vader was the Chosen One, and how he didn't tie into this at all anymore, other than the fact that Kylo Ren is his blood. It didn't. It was the end of this trilogy, sort of. It wasn't the end of the saga. Hard to say. It's a part of the saga, but so the fact that the Emperor was back was just kind of like, to me, it was like that's the worst thing you could have done.
Yeah.
And then the First Order and the Last Order. I like that it was called the Last Order. It made a little sense. Final Order, excuse me. But it was the plan. All those ships that were mini Death Stars off in the wilderness of space, just getting built up, full crews. I mean, you know how many people it takes to run an aircraft carrier, a real life one, and those ships are gigantic. And you're going to crew those things secretly. Nobody knows they exist, but we got like
And they were
populations to fill
right?
planets out
They were
there.
planet killers. That's what they were, right?
Planet killers,
Yeah, they were like a bunch of mini Star Killer bases.
Real Death
Mini
Star.
Death
Yeah.
Stars.
Yeah.
We got all that out there, and when you look at it, that was his backup plan. That was his. There was a code name for it in one of the books. Not that the books mean anything, but remember the books that came out right after Force Awakens, that one trilogy. Anyway, Aftermath, and this whole plan ends up when you look at the span of how long it took to build that plan and execute it. It was longer than the lifespan of the Empire itself, and it was kind of more grand than the Empire. It's like, how is your backup plan bigger than the legacy of the original
The original
Empire?
Empire,
It
yeah.
was just completely like, this is
I never
way
thought about
far
it that way.
so that was like logically it had to make sense. I think I had a third thing, and I can't think of it right now. Maybe the fact I think it was that Rey took on the Skywalker name.
Oh yeah.
It didn't. I finally got, in my opinion, at least, why I think she did, and I was like, but it doesn't mean jack crap, She should have said, "My name is Palpatine." Doesn't mean I'm a bad guy. It means I'm a good guy. That was what Leia was trying to teach her. So those are my hardcore. I've got small potatoes all over, but I could do that for The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens, the prequels. I think there's a list of at least 10 items on each of those movies. And I just get facepalm for so many stupid things, including the prequel. Sorry, but they do happen.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Leia and Luke kissed. That's a facepalm, and that's a big WTF moment. All right, so like I can forgive a lot of simpler, corny, stupid things if I can only focus on what I think ruins the story. Those for the Rise of Skywalker, that's what ruined it for me.
Yeah. I don't think I have much to add beyond what Red provided, but it was like the last season of Game of Thrones, right?
Oof.
You build up this grand story and you end it like that, and I'm like, what the heck?
That's a very good
And
comparison.
That's a different podcast right there too. Because
it's a
Yep.
different podcast.
believe it or not,
Save
that
for another
hurt
one.
probably more. That was a horrible last
Oh,
season.
it,
Yeah.
it really was.
Oh,
It was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, I think to hit Rhett's point home, I mean, there was so much built up in 1 through 6, but there was no connection to say why all of that was significant, and I feel like that it just eroded everything that I enjoyed about Star Wars growing up as a fan. That this was my franchise, and this is how you treat it. I think that's why I dislike the Rise of Skywalker, because it was a horrible conclusion to what should have been, a T-ball, right? You could hit it right off the tee.
There you go. How about you, Buck?
Yeah. What did you not like about Rise of
Right.
Skywalker?
So
Let's stick with like the real core issues.
Fundamental.
Yeah.
you know what? It's all fundamental because this was the last movie that should have meant so much. Okay,
Objection
so
leading.
let me hold on. Let me get my hold on.
Objection leading.
Hold on.
All right, Camille.
All right. So okay, Palpatine's return. I was so excited. I was in celebration when I saw that teaser,
I wasn't excited.
and I saw. I know you weren't excited, but I was excited.
It's like,
You heard Palpatine's laugh at the end, and I was excited. I mean, I think I text Fred. I'm like, man, I told you, sucker. I told you, man. It's all part of the plan, baby. They know what they're doing. Disney knows what they're doing. What did we get, man? Oh, somehow Palpatine returned.
One
That
of the
was
worst
it.
lines and stuff.
Sith
That
science cloning. More than I got from Snoke in the Last Jedi. More than I got.
So and Rhett, and I know how you hate questions and like unanswered questions, right? Like things
It's
are
full
just
of
not
it.
resolved, and in this movie, it's all over the place, and it's
It's
the
full
last
of it.
movie.
You can't
I mean,
deny
look, Finn's secret. What secret? What was it? It was revealed in novelization. The whole movie, he's like he has to tell Ray something. I'm thinking he has a crush on her, and he's just afraid
That's
to
what
tell her.
everyone thought.
No, apparently
it. It was
he had
worse.
force
I knew that.
abilities. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't.
I picked up on that. I was clear to me because they had a conversation and he finished her sentences about the Force early on. And
Do we
now it's
have
like
to
he's
guess
trying to
that?
tell her he can do the Force.
Right.
At this point, why should we have to guess that? Why can they just tell us?
They shouldn't have had it to begin with, I think. But
No,
go ahead.
you're
Yeah.
right. You're right about that. Yeah, but
Yeah,
still,
I agree with Bucky though. I feel like Finn was wasted. Right, there was so
Wasted
much
potential,
potential.
huge wasted potential.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back with Finn actually, but I'm gonna go on.
Okay.
But the whole Goonies plot was ridiculous. Not so much that it wasn't fun. I mean, it was to some. I guess it was fun. It was corny, but
Water.
we had a conversation last week about it. How the whole what do you call it? That whole date thing
Oh,
where you
the dagger.
The dagger.
dagger that
Yes,
matched
dagger.
exactly to the
Where it
remains
is.
of the last Death Star. Come on,
Do you know
That was the
what is
worst,
do you
that?
know
was
how
stupidest plot
hard?
hole.
That was dumb.
Oh,
Come on.
But that's not fundamental, man. I mean, that's
You know,
cheesy.
it's a
but
plot
it
hole,
is
I guess.
because
Yeah.
that's basically a really hard storyline. They're trying to put in there to add
Yeah,
to
they
the war.
forced that. Yeah.
All right. All
I mean,
right.
come on,
That's literally
that's ridiculous.
impossible to figure out. Like standing in a perfect spot and like figure that out right
Yeah.
there. Like
That whole thing would have like the Wayfinder
Well,
itself.
brought it
Who
out.
created these stupid things, and why are they the only way
what
to get
happened to
there?
holocrons? Weren't holocrons always the answer to these?
Yeah. See,
Like,
exactly.
Right.
Why
They
they have to
didn't
make
take
a
what's
completely
already
different
there.
device completely? Like,
Yeah, we kind of interrupted you. You had all your list of problems.
sorry. Yes, go on, Nick.
No,
Sorry.
it's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
It's good talk. It's good talk.
I know you guys are gonna think it's minor, but come on, Chewbacca's fake death.
I did not like that.
It's just an attention.
At least they could do is let it simmer a little bit. Let it sit down. Like, oh crap, Chewbacca died. Not even 2 minutes passed by.
He was right there.
He was, Finn.
Behind the rock.
He was like 8 feet away. You couldn't tell which ship he was on. Come on.
It's
Awful.
like, you got me right. I want to change my original score from a 7 to a 6. There were stupid things like that.
Yeah.
It's a 6 because it was like a college kid making a movie. He's like, oh, I forgot to film that scene. Look, use that same
where's my
shot
call?
and do an overlay of the.
I'm actually gonna hop in there real quick because I have multiple problems with Chewbacca's death, and one of them was with Rey, and it was when she used the Force lightning, her actual ability to use Force lightning. I didn't like that they turned that into like a heritage type thing, that just because she was the granddaughter of Palpatine, she could do Force lightning. I mean, there's lots of Jedi in that can use it. It's called Force Judgment. Plo Koon, one of the council members of in the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, he actually uses Force lightning. It's called Force Judgment. It's just the Jedi version of it, And it's like, I mean, we see Count Dooku use Force lightning all the time. It does not mean that he is related to Palpatine.
Well, no, I think it's just a Sith power.
No, not all. Vader never used it.
But he would have shocked himself because he's robotic. He would have shorted out his entire body.
Darth Maul never used it.
True, but maybe he wasn't there yet.
I don't know. There's just plenty of Sith that can't do it.
Wait, when did Plo Koon use it?
I mean, it's a Sith power, right?
It's a dark side power.
No, but
yeah,
the Jedi's can use it. It's called Force Judgment. I promise you they can.
Really?
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Plo Koon doesn't use it in the movies. It's
objection. That's hearsay.
Is it in? Yeah, for real. Until you prove it to me, it's hearsay.
I'm about to. Exactly. I will literally put a picture right here, and when it's done editing.
Is it in Clone Wars? If it's Clone Wars, I'll buy it.
It's not in Clone Wars either.
Well, then what is it?
I think it's a comic.
That's
so
no evidence.
Speaking of hearsay, I mean, I heard this thing where Kylo wasn't pulling the ship; he was somehow impacting Rey, and that's why she was able to use Force lightning.
That's definitely hearsay.
That's definitely hearsay. It sounds cheesy,
yeah,
but that's something I've heard.
But you know what? That's going back to that whole problem with Rey and Kylo, was that even their fight felt like nothing because they weren't trying to kill each other, man. Come on. It was stupid. But anyway, let me just go through it. I have a couple more. Nothing big.
Yeah, I know. You have like 10.
I mean, not sorry. C-3PO's, fake memory wipe.
Yeah, let's pull up the heartstrings.
With that.
for nothing. He got it back at the end. Ben Skywalker. He turns into Ben Skywalker, and he doesn't have one damn line in the whole damn thing except "ow." That's it.
Hmm.
The biggest, my biggest complaint besides Ray Skywalker. This was the last movie, right? This was coming off of Endgame that came out a couple of months before. We all know how Endgame ended. I mean, it was
Epic battle.
everybody
Yeah.
epic battle, right?
Take notes, KK.
You mean to tell me that at the end of this movie, they didn't think to bring back the Force ghosts of these classic characters to help out Ray? Instead, they used the voices because that's so much better. I was so disappointed. I can't believe the whole trilogy went by, and when you get to see Anakin as a Force ghost, will be one. Qui-Gon,
Yeah, it would have been awesome.
Mace Windu, and
It
any
would
of
have
these
been epic.
characters. Oh, the only one we had
Especially-
was Yoda in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But at the end of this saga, I mean, they could have. I mean, how can you? Because look, it was a shit story, right? But that would have at least made it watchable and be like, oh shit, that ending was amazing.
Like to wait for the last moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? That lightsaber fight with Darth Maul was holy shit. That was worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah. That, exactly. If you didn't like anything else, at least you had something to look forward to at the end.
The Rise of Skywalker had nothing. It was
Yeah, it did.
it did.
And I know the one cool fight in The Last Jedi was the one with the Red Guards.
The throne
There's
room scene.
issues with it, but it was like
Right.
it was probably the neatest thing to watch in the entire thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. God, you know, I've thought of it in my head. We all have of what that last scene could have been like, especially if when she's struggling, like
Right.
name any of the important Jedi, but like if you slowly brought each one out, but like you just bring one to start with, and you're just like, yes, and it's like so good, and you think that's gonna be it, and then like another one pops up,
Yeah.
and then like before you know it, it's just like that would have been the best.
Major failure. Missed
Yeah.
opportunity right there.
I remember 'cause I saw it with my brother, and of course he was in denial at first. He liked it, just like how we liked the prequels. We didn't want to admit they were bad, right?
Yeah, of course.
But he was telling me, it gets me excited. He goes, "Oh man, wasn't that great?" I'm like, yeah. And he goes, "And did you hear those
The
voices?" And I could pin out Ahsoka. I could pin out. I'm like, yeah, I didn't catch it. I don't know who's who. I didn't. What the hell was that?
Like, who did I just hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was such a disappointment. And here's another thing: the sequel that we really should have gotten, which I know wouldn't have made any difference to most people, even you, Red. The Colin Trevorrow Duels of the Fates script was real.
That would have been fun.
They had concept art. That's not hearsay. It's there.
I know.
Okay, they had Ray had a double blade lightsaber, which she should have had because she was working staff the whole time. Okay, they had Kylo go for the supreme. He turned into a huge Sith Lord. It was like I don't know what he found. I don't know what they explained it better in the script, obviously, but he actually found training of a Sith monster that trained Pelagus and became the superior Sith Lord. Okay. There were so many things in that script. It wasn't perfect. They obviously remember working from The Last Jedi from that as the actual sequel. Ray ended up being nobody. She actually got hurt. She was blinded. She fought Kylo at the end, and Kylo blinded her. He fought him twice. She fought him twice, and she lost. Okay, the only thing that saved her was Force Ghost at the end came and helped her out, and Leia helped convert Ben. But there were so many ideas. And then Finn led the First Order as their leader to the good side. And that's what it should have been. That's what his character was made for.
Leader. He was a stormtrooper, yeah. He should have
I'm
been
not saying it would have been the perfect movie, right?
No,
but
I get you.
a lot better ending.
I don't think that was perfect, but I think that was
better. It's better.
It's
better.
better.
I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate here, but it's like I could think of how many things episode 8. Let me just go with episode 8 could have gone in so many better directions too. And then you throw that on the end, and it's like boom, 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 a home run every time. Not like a debatable one, and then that was better. Like it's just they should have gone for good, better, best. Is how they could. They had it right there, silver platter. Anyway,
really did.
God, really, can you imagine Ray struggling, and then it's tough. It's tough. But the first one that fades in, if it was like Hayden as Anakin, it would have just people would have lost their freaking minds
It,
exploding.
it would have been that would have been the perfect ending to the Skywalker trilogy because Anakin would have been by her side.
Exactly.
Finish what I
Even if
started.
that's
Finish
Yeah.
what I. It's
Yeah, you
Yeah.
need it for me. And then like the
Yeah.
others came to help, but then the final one it would start with Anakin. Others come out. We even see Ahsoka for the first time. Mace, whatever. Some others that are important, and then like at the very end we have old Luke again, and he's like at a much better place, and he's like,
yeah.
"I'm here for you, Ray." Like, oh my god, that's where a special edition can knock it out of the
Oh,
park.
it's funny because I heard so many rumors before Rise of Skywalker came out that Hayden, Ewan,
there's filming. Yeah, he was.
they were filming, and I guess they were just voiceovers. But I heard rumors that they actually did film, and it was just cut. And I just don't know if I will see that. I mean, it's a shame. I don't understand how they could actually cut that out if that's true. If it was filmed,
Gets me pissed off.
Yep. Yeah, you guys are getting me worked up again.
I'm like,
I gave up on Star Wars years ago.
Yeah, I don't understand the logic behind it. I mean, especially something like that, where they know, look, they screwed up the trilogy, right? At least have this ultimate fan service that they know everybody's gonna enjoy. Give us something to save, something to like. Okay, well, at least it had that. Damn, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I
all right.
get it. It was terrible. I saw it 3 times in the theater just to see if I was missing something, and it made me cry every time. I couldn't. I don't know.
I saw Last Jedi once in the theater.
True. I mean, I felt the same way that you felt about Rise of Skywalker with The Last Jedi, right? I've never walked out of a Star Wars movie feeling bad.
Defeated, just like
Yeah, I was like, when I walked out of Last Jedi, I was like,
absolutely,
I can't believe I'm gonna say it. I don't like that movie.
Yep, I went through the same thing. It's like I can't believe I'm gonna say this.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
it hit me differently with Rise of Skywalker. Well, not differently, in a different way, because I felt like a fool. I was embarrassed at that point because I had stood behind Kathleen Kennedy, Disney, and I mean I was very vocal on my YouTube channel about how I thought all these fans were acting crazy. I mean, Disney knows what they're doing. You just need to have faith in them. I felt ridiculous. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed, and it was so hard to come down from that. And I still haven't actually, because just thinking about how the whole thing ended,
you're absolutely right. I was also very embarrassed to
it
be a
made me
Star Wars
go
fan at
to
that
how
point.
much money they put into this, the Galaxy's Edge, based off the sequel trilogy.
what a solid waste.
They can't even do anything because they spend so much money in that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like that there are parts in. I go to Disney often. I like that there are parts in Galaxy's Edge that do reference older movies and other series like Clone Wars, even games now. They got Cal Kestis's lightsaber at Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool, but like when I look around and I see First Order stuff and I'm just like, here. it's so disappointing.
Yeah.
If it meant something, it just didn't. It was like at least 1 through 6, you could say it was all about Vader. Like he was
100%.
It was him before he turned dark, and then it was him as dark and his good son bringing him back. You can't say 7 even.
You can't say about any of them.
I say starting with 7 because it's like that.
Yeah.
If it's gonna be 6 to 7, like it should at least connect.
Right.
With 3 to 4, we here's where we left off. He's 19 years old now. But we last saw a baby. This is that same guy.
Yeah.
It just didn't connect. It was like it should have never had episode 7, 8, or 9 tied to it. It should have just been cool new Star Wars movies that are later.
Yeah.
3
of the movies about someone totally different.
Here's also the big problem too with the prequels and the sequel trilogy. The prequels, as bad as they were, I don't think at any point I actually hated those movies. Like I acknowledge after a while that they were bad movies, but there was always something in them in each one that I could take away and be like, man, that was worth watching. It's fine.
They were Star Wars.
Episode 1 gave us that awesome lightsaber battle that I had never seen before. And I saw that movie 8 times in the theater because that lightsaber scene alone was like the best thing ever, right?
And like the midichlorians too, like even as cheesy as that was, it explained the significance of Anakin and why he was so important and so strong.
Yeah.
And then all of that's gone to waste. Like it's eroded because of the sequels.
Wow.
I guess
The second one.
I think we
Attack
only
of the Clones.
established what we already knew, which is I look at it like which ones. For me, it's like where the problem started. That you could say it started with the Force Awakens, where I identified the problem, where I first felt it was for me Last Jedi. For you, it was Rise of Skywalker. That's obvious.
yeah,
You Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's an answer. Like I don't know if that's where we're supposed to come out of this. This versus
no.
that.
There's not going to be a conclusion tonight. I mean,
Yeah.
our opinions are. You guys think that Last Jedi truly ruined the Star Wars, like
It
truly,
started
like
it,
the Skywalker saga is where it started. Was Last Jedi. For you, Buck, it was Rise of Skywalker. For me, I think watching it as a whole, 7, 8, and 9, I had faith, and then looking back on it, I just don't think it should exist.
Yeah.
Because even I can't even watch 7 and have a good time.
No, I can't watch 7
Not
anymore.
anymore.
None of it.
Can't.
Yeah.
It's a tease.
Yeah.
Something you'll never get.
Nope.
Yep. I guess throwing out something fun before we end here, we're probably past our time, but could they ever do you honestly think there's anything they could do? Because a lot of us felt hopeless, a lot of us, I kind of was there, but a lot of people felt hopeless after the prequels, and they've been redeemed over time with help from other shows and just time in general. And something worse coming out that helps something sometimes.
Yeah.
Is there any hope for this trilogy?
I'll start.
Go.
I truly think that way that the sequel trilogy portrayed Star Wars in the sense of connections to the Force, connections just to overall story and like reasons why Anakin Skywalker was who he was, Luke Skywalker, why the lineage even existed, like reason why any of that even happened, or where Palpatine even originated from, like all that combined, Clone Wars, Rebels, all those shows really tied up the knot when it came to prequel storyline and lore, and then we got a little more explanation to it, and we were introduced to a fantastic character, Ahsoka Tano, who's become one of a fan favorite for almost a lot of people in Star Wars. And got the sequel trilogy. They already tried doing a show for the sequel trilogy. It's called Star Wars Resistance. It's horrible. It's so bad.
I never saw it. You told me about it. And
I saw the first season. I really couldn't sit through it because it was about another character that no one cared about. It wasn't even about Poe Dameron was I think in one episode, and for some reason BB-8 follows this random character around the whole show. Why isn't he with Poe Dameron? Isn't that his droid? I'm so confused. It's just it's really hard. It's gonna be very, very hard to redeem the sequel trilogy if it's even possible, because it's just not a good story when it comes to Star Wars. It doesn't match up with anything. Where did Force healing come from? Mandalorian helped the sequel trilogy when it came to them introducing Force healing, because we saw Grogu do it in an episode of Mandalorian, and then Rise of Skywalker came out and they did it in Rise of Skywalker. So but then it goes back to, if Anakin knew Force healing was a thing the whole time, he would have never turned to the dark side, because he could have saved Padme.
Better point than you had. Yeah, we talked about that today too, because we're like, oh yeah, the Force healing thing. It started with we watched the part where Yoda zapped the tree.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, see, that's introducing new shit. So I guess Obi-Wan could have like gone to the Death Star and zapped somebody or situation and saved the day. But then it brought us to the Force healing and how Mandalorian showed it, and then the next week Rise of Skywalker came out, and it almost ruins. There's an opportunity for us to say, she read the text. That's why no one knew it. I get it now. It's ancient, but it's like,
did Kylo
Grogu
read the
did it.
text?
He didn't know anything. Grogu did it.
Kylo did it too.
He didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
It would have made sense because you saw Rey in Rise of Skywalker. She's reading she saved the books from the Last Jedi. It shows her saving them, and then or shows them in her drawer because she kept them, and then she's intently reading them. She's learning stuff that Luke Skywalker himself didn't know about. So it's like, oh, that makes sense how she picked up a new skill that was long lost.
Yeah.
But then freaking Grogu does it, and it's like, yeah, it makes no sense. How did he ever learn that?
Yeah.
And he was a Padawan in the Clone Wars in the Jedi Temple. So is that something they taught in the Jedi Temple? Because if that's the case, then Anakin should have known it.
Yeah. Is it something that species maybe only knows? But if that's the case, then why didn't Yoda ever do it?
Yoda could have healed everyone who was killed at Order 66.
Yeah. So you're right. That's such a huge plot hole that. See, within fixing the sequel trilogy, they're messing up the old stuff too. So
Qui-Gon could have survived.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going to say. I'm going to leave you, Rhett, for last, because he has actually a good explanation as to how it can be saved. I don't think so, though.
All right, so if me and Buck are on the side of this thing cannot be saved.
It can't be saved, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because going back to the prequels again, as bad as they were in the sense of acting and all this other stuff, they left enough open with the lore that they could add more stuff to it, and it didn't hurt anything. You know, it was basically the story of Darth Vader, and it was fine. It made perfect sense. The sequel trilogy, um, it can't be fixed.
So
You can add more stuff throughout the years of explaining how the First Order came about, how the
right there you go, you nailed it.
yes, but that will only fix Force
Yep.
Awakens and The Last Jedi. It can't fix the atrocious ending we got from Rise of Skywalker. That can never be fixed.
I agree.
Never.
I agree with
Never.
what you're saying because I was saying, yeah, all the shows help the prequels because they're just filling gaps that we didn't know, and that's a lot of what I got out of the Last Jedi. A lot of gaps could be filled that fix that movie. If you're done, I don't want to cut you off, or
No,
maybe
yeah,
you wanted to speak.
No, I'm done. That's it.
All
Yeah.
right, so my reason I feel like there's a little hope, possibly, was because they have been, I think, working on the Last Jedi a little by dropping little snippets in Mandalorian showing the tank with something getting created in there. So you
Okay.
start to see a little bit more about that. There's other stuff that I feel like they can lead up. All they have to do with the Last Jedi is fill some gaps, and it could be pretty much recovered because even the Rise of Skywalker helped me appreciate Last Jedi more because it helped me understand Luke is actually okay. I got the Luke I was supposed to get. I mean, at the time, it's like the Luke we got in Last Jedi should have never existed. And he said in Rise of Skywalker, "I was wrong," and I was like, "You were wrong," and I'm glad you can admit that now. Um, so I feel like the Last Jedi could be fixed. You have a hard time fixing the Rise of Skywalker with just shows. You'd have to go through a lot to explain things that shouldn't have ever been explained in a show. It should have been in the movie,
Yeah.
and that's going to be tough. Except for
Yeah.
one final way they could do it, if you got the time.
Go ahead. Got it.
You ready for this? I've told you all know what I'm talking about.
Drum roll.
All right, you do one last movie, no trilogy. You get a roundabout full 10 episodes, and you have episode 10, right? It You really couldn't continue at this point with Anakin or Luke because it's just at this point it's too far down. They're dead. The actors are really too old though. I think that was the whole reason they cast completely new people to replace them. So Rey has, because she absorbed all of Kylo or Ben's force power on top of her own, she took the essence of the chosen one, which, let's go back to Clone Wars now, the planet, that great episode where it showed the brother and the sister and the father, right? I want to say Morbus, but I'm thinking Morbius. Mortis. Mortis. They explain there that the chosen one is basically assigned. And that assigned chosen one didn't go in the direction. And his heir, his offspring, his blood, Luke and Leia, became the next potentials with that same power. All right, it carried on in them. Leia ended up being the one to continue that. So he had it. Ben had it. She, by his death and her absorbing it, she was not the chosen one, but she took the gifts of the chosen one and owns that now. She has that. And now is where, and I don't know what this story could be, but we need an explanation of why this whole thing happened. Why the chosen one was come up with. We need to go back to Mortis and get something much grander than the physical plane of this one Sith Lord who wants power and government and owning things. That's what they should have never continued in 7 through 9 is people just wanting the same thing, a strong empire. It needed to go to elevate it past the mortal plane in episode 7, and since that didn't happen, what we got out of that is we have the hero that is gonna help us understand why the force is the way it was, and I think that would be the capstone to understanding and giving us a lot more that we should have had. And I know it's I did not do a great job of selling that.
I think I'm on board. I think I get it. The story of the wills and
The
whatnot.
Wills, there you go.
Yeah. But I mean, we got the announcement today that the Skywalker saga is over, right? Kathleen Kennedy said that we're done with it. That we're gonna move on from it. We're gonna make more content unrelated to
She said that a long
that.
time ago. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it came out in recent press, but yeah. I'm with you guys. I think at this point, that makes too much sense. Every time that we've had a theory that could have worked, Disney went in a completely different direction. Um, I'm of little faith now to make Star Wars work as I would have wanted it. But I'll still enjoy the TV series and continue on with that.
There's a really far fetched theory. I don't know if you guys have heard it. It's called the Ahsoka Theory, and it's in Rebels. They introduced this uh dimension in the Force that has like a timeline almost. It's like
Yeah.
on a separate
World
time.
between worlds,
World
right?
between worlds. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Ezra pulls Ahsoka out from when she was supposed to die to Vader.
Yeah.
And when he did that, a lot of people think that the Star Wars universe split into two timelines. And,
Multiverse.
and that is why we hear Ahsoka's voice at the end of Rise of Skywalker, because she died. So that's why we see that in that timeline, and then that's why at the end of Rebels she's still alive, and now she's getting her own show in Ahsoka. So again, it could be split into different timelines. People are really, really, really stretching for that to be true. I mean, but again, it's
That's
super
Kevin
far
Feige.
fetched.
That's that Kevin Feige movie we keep hearing about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The multiverse of Star Wars.
It's too
Yeah.
good to be true.
it is too good to be true. I know.
I honestly think they should have. I mean, the sequel trilogy should have actually focused on Ahsoka. Believe it or not, I thought
yeah.
if they're going to focus on a female character, and well, I mean, she's an alien, whatever, but
Still female.
her character would have been much more relatable because she was in the Clone Wars and she was Anakin's Padawan. I thought that would have been a very interesting angle to go with.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
wasn't the write up the sequel trilogy was supposed to be Leia's trilogy, right? Where the first trilogy, the prequels were Anakin,
Right.
the original trilogy was Luke,
and then
and
sequels
then
Leia.
the following would be Leia.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, in a sense. But then it sucks because she passed away, and it
Right.
kind of even made things even worse. But
Right.
yeah, in a sense, I think you're right. I think it was supposed to be kind of her trilogy.
Yeah. Even though I kind of didn't like the way they portrayed Leia, but that's
Well, they shouldn't have brought it back in
problem.
Rise of Skywalker. They should have just. I think they should have just announced that her character died within the credits because it didn't feel right how
Nah,
they did it.
people
It was
aren't gonna
weird.
do that either. Like that, the people want to see it on screen.
I like it.
Well, then honestly, they should have cast someone else. I mean,
no, I think they just should have. Ryan Johnson should have made the call after it was done. I know he shot the movie, but it's like, you know what? There's that moment where she gets blasted out of the bridge. Why don't we go ahead and kill her there? I know she had more scenes. Why don't we go ahead and kill her in the bridge scene? Let's put that towards the end of the movie instead. She dies in that scene. She gets blasted out of the bridge.
Yeah.
That'd have
I
been
thought, maybe she should have been in that ship where Holdo was there, where she committed suicide. That's how Leia should have gone
even
out.
better.
That would have been a great end off
If it
to her
was shot.
send off. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they might have been able to fake the end of that, but
I mean, whatever. But yeah. To your point about episode 10, yeah, I think it's a great idea, but it'll never happen.
That'll happen.
you need. All right. So just to throw in the last, it would be like directed by Favreau, produced by
Filoni.
Filoni. Thank you. Yeah, or directed by Filoni, I'd rather, and produced by Favreau. I would want to throw in Hayden Christensen as a Force ghost. Anakin. You can get Luke in there as well. Like you can get who you can pull around that's still around. I think Rosario Dawson would be a lead in this movie. Like it'd be great to put her in the movie.
We can get a little bit older of a Grogu.
Yeah, old Grogu talk.
Yeah.
And he sounds like the little guy from Friday or something. I don't know. No, I don't, but just it would have been truly tying in the other movies. Like, let's bring in all the characters who were here at some point.
Yeah.
And Mortis, like, it just needed to be. We needed to learn what's the core of the Force. Like, why does the Force choose the chosen one? Like, none of those answers.
Nothing was answered. Why? Because in
1 through 6.
Yeah, in that Mortis episode, the father explains that the chosen one is supposed to take his place when the father passes on, and they really didn't do anything else with that.
Great time to almost just repeat that episode in live action form.
Yeah,
and not repeat it, but just use those same elements. Show how there's essentially a dark brother and a good sister, and
that's what the sequel trilogy should have concentrated on.
Yeah, that we should have gotten 3 movies of that, but now, like, well, let Rey be the and honestly have Ben as a Force ghost. Like, let Rey be the one that discovers and learns it.
And Ahsoka is the essence of the sister. Sister when she healed Ahsoka, that owl that follows Ahsoka around everywhere, that's the sister's owl.
And
That's
that's where she could have had a lead role because she could
honestly,
have turned into the owl,
if
and that
Ray
would,
would have done like if she would have gone on this own little journey of how to discover like between like what the chosen one's about or something, something along the lines of that, and then she
This
meets
makes me more
Ahsoka.
upset.
Like there's so many things they could have done. It's just
They were so
that's
scared
why
to alienate the regular everyday fans that they thought going that direction would have just been too complicated. And yeah,
yeah.
I'm thinking, got
Uh,
it.
anyway, I
well,
guess that's
it's
it.
it's a very ending to a very depressing podcast, but I think in conclusion, we can all agree that Star Wars was ruined by the sequel.
It
Because
was no argument there. No
there's
argument
no
there.
argument. It's just totally
Yeah,
ruined. Whether it
yeah,
was Last Jedi, whether it was Rise of Skywalker, whether it was Force Awakens, it's
yeah.
just never going to be fixed, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'll
Rhett's
fight anyone
idea,
differently. Yeah.
yeah, Rhett's idea with Episode 10 probably would have been the only thing that could have helped it, but they're just not going
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Super unfortunate.
Yeah. And it's not gonna be this kind of trilogy that's gonna age better in 10 years like the prequels did. Because I think some people are thinking, well, the prequels were hated. I'm sure in another 10, 15 years, the sequel trilogy will be appreciated. And no, it won't be. It won't, I'm saying it right now. There's no way it will be. No.
Well, I mean, I've heard that Ray or Daisy Ridley said that she'd be willing to come back, and that was
Really?
in like the last few months.
I heard that. I actually also heard that
John
Kylo.
Boyega.
Adam
No,
Oh,
Driver?
Driver.
Adam Driver, because Adam Driver loves his character. He loves Kylo Ren, and I'll say this: in the sequel trilogy, he was the only character I thought was the most fleshed out.
That's
He
fair.
was the one that was, of course, they did his character no justice at all in the last movie, but he was the one consistent character I think in the whole trilogy. And he loves his character, and I think he would come back if there was something worth coming back to. But I just don't think there is. I don't know. I don't know.
There's not. It totally
Yeah.
sucks.
So
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today in the Worst Fans podcast, where we literally just broke down everything that we hated about Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, and the sequel trilogy as a whole. And next week, who
I think we
knows?
did good.
Yeah,
No bloodshed.
we did a pretty good job.
It was good.
Uh, and join us again next week because we might do the same thing with everything coming out. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Adios.
Adios.